following example, we want to know what is the domain of this function, which in this case we call it g of x. Once again, don't worry about the letters we write on the outside. It's simply for you to know it's just a function called g, right? So like my name is Mr. Modano, I'm a human being, but my name is Mr. Modano. This is a function, its name is g, right? Same thing. Well, we want to talk about domain now. And domain is always what you're putting in. In this case, we call it the input. So domain is everything you can plug in, right? Another word we're going to talk about in the future is the range. And if you haven't guessed it yet, range is going to be what you get out, or in other words, the output, right? Well, let's talk about this problem. Today's problem revolves around what can you plug in inside a square root. Well, very simple. If you know the properties of a square root, you're going to remember that you can never, ever have a negative number or a negative answer inside a square root. So if you go on a calculator, if you write the square root of -1, the square root of -5, those are not possible. They would be called undefined. Undefined. With another way to write undefined is with a little symbol, 0 with a slash. Well, what can we write? Let me write this down over here. The x, square root of x minus 6. What can x be in order for us to start getting actual answers? Well, we can make just a few guesses here. Can you plug in a 0? 0 minus 6 is actually going to give us a negative inside. When do we start getting positive answers, right? And not just positive answers, actually. If you go on your calculator and you put the square root of 0, you actually get an answer, 0. It's not positive, but again, you want something that is either positive, 0 or positive. So look at your x. When do we start getting positive answers? Well, what does x have to be for this to be 0? You guessed it. If we put a 6 minus a 6, don't we start getting a 0? If we put a number bigger than 6, like a 7 minus 6, don't we start getting a square root of 1? And we start getting positive numbers. The bigger the number after 6 is when we start getting answers that we want. Well, if that's the case, what will be my domain? Well, my x has to be, remember, we can accept an answer of 0. So my answer will be not 0. When do I start getting 0, guys? When my x is 6 or what? Or 7 or 8 or 9. Basically anything 6 or higher. So are we going to write an equal sign? Not really. We're going to write what you guys remember as an inequality symbol. Let me write that in red. Inequality symbol. This symbol means that the x has to be greater or equal. Greater or equal to that number 6. And that's how you find domain in these functions. Remember, and the inside of a square root has to be 0 or positive.